Have you ever wondered how to know what the birds are saying when you approach on a landscape? For instance, if you're, I don't know, almost anywhere and you hear birds talking and you wonder, like, what's actually going on with them? Well, today we're going to be exploring three of the five voices of birds that we have identified in the practice and study of bird language. And so, bird language is basically understanding and being able to interpret what the birds are saying. And the three voices we're going to cover today are song, contact calls, and alarm. And we're going to do that through the practice of the mindful bird sit. I'm Kristi from Bird Mentor. Let's get started. All right, so today we're going to actually looks like all of you are outside. This is perfect because today is all going to be about the ears. So that's wonderful. Yay, we're going to focus on sound. So go ahead and find your comfy place. And just take a nice deep breath in. And let it go. Take one more in. And just let it go. And just notice where your breath is traveling when it comes into your body. Notice which part of your body it fills. And if there's more space that can be filled. You can take a deeper breath on the next one if you want to, or just let it fall into your natural rhythm. And I want you just to notice your posture as you're sitting here, being attentive to your breath, noticing if there's, just noticing what your baseline posture is first, taking stock of it, noticing where your shoulders are, noticing where your head is in alignment or not alignment with the rest of your body. Noticing where your belly is, if it's tight or soft. All the different bits and pieces of your posture. And then you can adjust it to match whatever is most aligned and comfortable for you. Good work. So just go ahead and start to notice your body. Notice the sensations on your skin. Might come in the form of the breeze, might come in the form of the sun's rays, maybe an insect landing on you, or the touch of your clothing on your skin. Just notice all the different sensations that your skin, your body is experiencing right now. And then as you look out across the landscape, start to notice the different shades of color, noticing where there's shade and where there's sun. And even if it's all shady, see if you can pick out the darker areas and the lighter areas. Imagining that everything was black and white. What would your landscape look like? And now just look for the darker spaces. We'll just track the landscape. You can look whatever direction you want to, but just find the spaces. Again, imagining if this was a black and white landscape, imagining looking for those places that are dark. If you were a painter, you could imagine yourself looking at the different shapes and where the shadows may lie. And now go ahead and look for the lighter areas. Where are the brightest highlights? And those places that maybe aren't quite so bright, but are still lighter than the dark places. Good work. So now go ahead and explore your landscape looking for one point for your eyes to focus on. Ideally eye level. And it could be anywhere from 10 feet to 100 feet if you want to. Just find one point to let your eyes focus on. And then, as you all know to do now, begin to soften your vision slowly out as if you were a ripple. Your eyes, the vision was a ripple, watching a ripple expand further and further and further outward. Just letting your vision become nice and soft, allowing everything to get blurry if it does. You're still focused on that central point. And then now we're going to play with this just a little bit today. So as you are in owl eyes in this moment, in this softened vision, instead of staying on one point, go ahead and just slowly, slowly, slowly start to glance in one direction or the other, turning your eyes, but returning or staying in owl eyes, staying in that softened vision as you look around the landscape. Noticing where there's subtle motion and some not so subtle motion. Do you find it's easier to pick out the darker areas compared to the lighter areas when you're in owl eyes or when you're in more focused vision? Good work. So you can return your eyes to one central point. And now we're going to expand our listening all around us. So first, just noticing who's there, what sounds are present with you in this moment this morning. And let's start farthest from us today. We usually start with closer, but today we're going to start farther out. So stretch your ears as far as they can go, like the furthest sound that you could possibly hear right now. Good, and now bring it in just a little bit, remembering to listen behind you as well, tracking the sounds on your landscape. Okay, and keep coming in slowly. Now you can almost do a spiral around you from the furthest outward to closer in, just listening to the sounds, kind of tracking them, noticing who's there. Good work. And when you get back to yourself, just take a nice deep breath in and let it go. And so today we're going to be focusing on our ears and the various types of sounds that birds make, or all of the wild makes and the not so wild. So in bird language, we usually focus on 5 different voices. And today we're going to be focusing on 3 of those. So to begin, I want you all to listen, and we'll be listening first. We'll listen to 3 different realms of sound. So the first realm of sound is going to be bird or mammal. So some type of bird or mammal sound, and we're listening for song. So yeah, even a mammal sound, and not, I know humans are mammals, but we're going to reserve that for its own category in just a few moments. So begin first with mammal or bird, and I want you to explore the landscape for sound. And just seeing what is our song, and just seeing what is song. How do you know when a mammal or a bird is singing? And just see if you can find different examples of song right now. Okay, good work. Now what I want you to listen for, still staying with the mammals and birds, I want you to listen for a sound that one might describe as a contact call or communication between the birds. It's usually something that is conveying a message to another one in their family or flock or maybe their partner. And it's just a simple communication. It's one that says, I'm here. And mammals can make these kinds of sounds as well. I think of my neighbor dog in the morning when she's, done being outside. She barks just once, for her owners to let her in. She's like, woof. That's her way of saying, I'm here, let me in. It's not alarming. It's just communication. Even though I know alarm and song are both forms of communication, but this is more that contact, like I'm here call. So listen on your landscape, explore it for mammal or bird contact calls. See if you can notice who's talking to who. Maybe one in one part of your forest is talking to another one in a different part of your forest. And also just asking the question of what's the difference between the song and the contact call. So how do you know that one of them is a more intimate, sort of subtle communication and one of them is a song? Nice work. So now we're going to stretch our ears, and maybe you don't have to stretch quite so hard for this one. We're going to be listening for an alarm call. So alarm calls are usually depicted as something that sounds distressing, though there are other types of calls that birds and mammals will make that are contact calls or other forms of communication that aren't alarm, that may sound distressing to us. But again, I just want you to listen on the landscape and noticing how you know that something is an alarm versus a contact call. So just listening for a mammal or a bird alarm call right now. And maybe you have all three of them happening all at the same time. Maybe someone somewhere on the landscape is making an alarm and someone else is making a contact call and someone else is singing. So just now notice all the three voices. Can you find the three voices on the landscape? And maybe not. Just, sometimes birds aren't singing, sometimes they're not alarming. Seem to almost always be communicating to some degree, but And now for the final layer with this grouping, want you, if you are able, if you're sort of lucky enough, I guess I could say, to hear an alarm call right now, I want you just to notice the level of distress. Is it just mildly agitated, or are they really pretty freaked out? Just see how you know that. Go ahead and search the landscape now. Okay, good work, everybody. So now we're going to shift over to a different category of wildness, and that's the insect world. So we're going to begin first by listening to, listening for insect song. So search your landscape and see if you can hear any insects singing right now. Nice job. Now we're going to add the other layer of communication or contact call. So see if you can hear an insect making a contact call. So where it's just speaking to another member of its tribe, if you will, that may be different from its song. Okay, nice job. And finally, we're going to listen on the landscape for an insect alarm. So just trying to see what you can find. Okay, good work. So we're going to add the final layer onto our soundscape right now. And it doesn't mean you have to shut the other sounds out, of course not, but just be honing in on this particular grouping. So now we're going to listen for human sounds, and we're going to start with song. So see if you can hear on the landscape anything that reminds you of sort of an actual song or the essence of song from the human world. And it could be human, like an actual human, or human made things. So if some item is singing, maybe. And it's okay to explore it in the sense of, like, right now I can hear this outside HVAC unit going off. And if I was that HVAC unit, I might consider the sound that I was making right now a song, because it's not necessarily a communication, like a contact call, and it's not an alarm. It's my hum in the world, right? So you can play with that as you're listening for human-made or actual human sounds right now. So we're focusing on the song element. Okay, great. And now listening for human contact calls or human-made item contact calls. Remember, it's a more intimate sound, just saying, I'm here. And now finally go ahead and explore the landscape for human alarm sounds or human alarm calls. Great. Now just let yourself listen to all of it. Just take it all in without having to focus on any one particular sound. Just let yourself be bathed in the sound of this morning's landscape. All right, so take the next moment to offer a blessing or gratitude to the ones that you were able to connect with this morning. Okay, nice job, everybody. So as per usual, if you need to head out, thank you for coming, and otherwise you can stay for our chat. This practice is really helpful. You know, sometimes you might think like, oh, why are we listening to human sounds? Why are we listening to insect sounds? But all of them communicate something to us about what's happening in the world around us, right? And I'm not sure who I told this story to, but it may have been you all at one point. But years ago, I had a dog. His name was Teddy or Teddy Bear. We called him all sorts of things: Bear, Theodore, Ted, depending on like what mood we were in or if he was misbehaving. Um, he was an awesome dog, and he was with me this one particular weekend, and I was at my house doing some work on the computer, and I was pretty focused on my work. I don't know what it was for, some project, whatever. I was really focused on it, and he was walking around the house, and all of a sudden, like, I had just become so accustomed to like the rhythm of his footfalls, his nails kind of on the wood floor, right? And I heard his feet start to walk upstairs, which was a little unusual. He usually never went upstairs by himself. He would always go with me, but he stayed pretty close to where I was. But I heard his feet start to walk upstairs, and they walked in almost a stumble. I could hear him kind of like stumble down the stairs, and I sort of ignored it for the first moment. And then I could hear him stumble again. And I was like, I look over at him and I thought, something's not right. Like, first of all, he doesn't go upstairs. Second of all, like, why is he stumbling? You know, he's perfectly healthy. And I look at him, and it turns out he actually, we didn't know this until later, but he ended up ingesting, had been outside just before that, and we were living in Western Washington at the time, and he had been to the neighbors who had put slug bait out, because there's lots of slugs, and he had eaten it. And it's a really terrible toxin for the nervous system for animals. And so I didn't know this. I just knew it was something bad, and I could tell it was like a nerve reaction. And maybe I assumed it was something he ate. So I grabbed some activated charcoal and just like shoved it down his throat, because I always had some on hand. And then brushed him to the dog vet, who luckily wasn't too far away. And by the time I got him to the vet, actually, he was able to kind of jump in the car when I first got him in, but by the time we got to the vet, he couldn't even stand. I had to carry him into the vet, and he ended up being okay. He was never quite the same after that, but he made it through that event. But you know, I know that if I hadn't been as tapped into sound and listening just for subtleties, like, it was a real subtle distinction. He wasn't falling down the stairs. He was just sort of he was a little offbeat, you know? And all of that played into me being able to act really quickly and get him what he needed really, really quickly. And so yeah, it can come in handy for all sorts of reasons, whether it's to help our fellow loved ones, or just to tell us what the heck's going on out in the wilderness, you know? So I'm curious to hear your stories from this morning. What did folks become aware of? Whether it's an exciting story to share, or whether it's just something that you hadn't noticed before that maybe came into your awareness by doing this practice. And as usual, you can just wave your hand. Yeah, Cheryl, please go for it.
Well, first of all, the birds are it's a wonderful thing to do that with the birds, because I realize that I don't always pay attention to when they're doing their communication calls, but they're always quieter, and even the chickadees will just do chickadee, well, as what I call chickadee, when they're going to the feeder to say, I'm over here, you may want to come over here too. When they are, the only alarm I had was when a whole bunch of nuthatches decided to dive bomb the Niger feeder, and they push each other off, and they just get wild and crazy. So it's more of chaotic fun than it is danger. And there were no alerts. I mean, no the third kind of call, I forget what it's called right now, you know, the alarms, no alarm calls at all. But I also noticed that when the acorn woodpeckers gather together in a tree, they all do their little call to each other and like, I'm here, I'm here, I'm here, I'm here. And it's just hysterical. It's just hysterical. When you said that a hum can count as a human-made sound, an airplane flew over. Then when you talked about an I'm here call, I heard a big moving vehicle back up, beep, beep. So we do make those kinds of calls, and most of them are machinery type sounds. But when you said, okay, now listen to everything, I swear, crows started cawing, scrub jays flew into a tree doing a really loud raucous song. The acorn woodpeckers started, the chickadees and the nuthatches went crazy, the juncos. I mean, I thought, oh my God, I'm getting everything plus all of the human made sounds. So it was very exciting.
Oh, Cheryl, that's amazing. I love, well, one, I love the story of listening to the hum and just allowing the plane rather than being like an annoyance, which sometimes they can be, human-made sounds. We can feel annoyed, especially when we're out enjoying nature. We're like, ah, I wish that thing would just be quiet, you know? At least that's how I am sometimes. Um, and to, yeah, just to find the song in it, to find the hum in it, or the contact call, because you're right, that beep beep, it's like I'm here, I'm here, I'm here, I'm here, right? It's trying to communicate something to us. Yeah, yeah. And well done listening and like just receiving everything that's around you right now. How beautiful. Hmm. Thanks, Cheryl. Yeah. Kelly, did you, oh, or are you just like waving your finger?
Well, I had a fly on me, but I was gonna just share a little. I was wondering if silence might be the alarm that I heard at that point in the conversation, because there had been, just a lot of activity the whole time that I was there. But when it came to that moment, it was just silent as far as the birds go. And so I was wondering if perhaps that was the alarm that I was hearing. Um, and then ultimately I ended up leaving my spot because I started smelling something on the air, and it was I at first it was like, is that a cigar? And then, is that weed? Like, is it a skunk? I was just kind of going through all the things, and then I got scared, and so I went home. But that was an interesting interesting way to end it, engaging my other sense with the smells around.
Yeah,
But
and we,
yeah.
no, and we were talking about alarm calls and like, using all of our senses to pick up on alarm calls is a very wise thing to do. We were just honing in on one sense today, but using our eyes to tell us, our nose to tell us, it's just like it's really important. And you were honed in that moment, and it's just like no matter what they were, whether it was smoke, weed, or a skunk, it sounds like you didn't really want to be around anybody today out where you were, and you don't know, sometimes there can be sketchy people down there by the river, and so it's just like, yeah, wise thing just to head home, and if it was a skunk, I don't know, some people, I used to love when the skunk would come to my back porch, and I did always keep like a healthy distance from it, but there was times where like I let it get kind of close to me, and but you never know. It's just like it can be like a little nerve-wracking to have a skunk kind of close. So yeah, I think you made a really wise choice. And regarding the silence, yeah, I was wondering if anyone would have that happen or key into that. Yeah, silence is absolutely, it can be an alarm. This morning I went for my run and I was coming back kind of down like there's like a back alley where the it's just like where all the cars drive through to get to their garages and stuff. And it's not like an alley, like a scary place. It's like a nice little roadway through, but it's in the back of the houses. And as I was coming down, I had been hearing like bird conversation, like the companion calls, communication, just like chat, chat, chit, chat, blep, 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 blep. And then like as I turned the corner and came down, total silence. And so then it just made me look around. I was like, all right, someone's here. Like there's got to be usually a raptor. 99% of the time, it's a raptor that causes, usually an accipiter that causes that silence. Did you happen to see anything, Kelly? Any sign of one?
No, I didn't, but I was pretty well covered under the canopy, so
Yeah,
there could have
yeah.
been something up there for sure.
And that's the thing, we don't always see the source of alarm. You know, I had a friend I was chatting with like a couple years ago who lives in Western Washington, and he's like, you know, we always talk to people about bird alarms and like all this that you can learn from bird alarms and whatnot. But he's like, it's so rare because he had just been to Eastern Washington, which is like open, ponderosa pine forest, like you can see forever. And he was just like, it's just so different here in Western Washington. He's like, it's so dense. Like, we hardly ever get to see the source of the alarm. You know, like we can make a good guess, but like, rarely do we ever get to have like proof and be like, yes, it was a hawk, or like, yes, it was a dog. You know, like even though we kind of have a good sense of like, it probably is this animal, you know? So yeah, sometimes we never get to see the source of the alarm. Yeah. Thanks for your story, Kelly. Sweet. Anyone else have anything come to their awareness today? Any clues? Yeah, Anne, go for it.
I think mine was also the lack of sound. I'm actually camping near my pond, and I've spent the last 2 days like camping. And now that I sat here quietly on a Monday morning, I realized the red-winged blackbirds are gone.
Oh.
You know, so it's their lack of sound that alerted me. They're done, they're gone. And the loudest thing is the cottonwood tree dropping its leaves. So there was a sound, it was a plant sound, but it's telling me days are changing, seasons are changing. So, and then maybe a far off blue jay, but it's very quiet. And that's the sound. It's a lack of sound, but it's telling me, you know, there aren't any kingfishers or anybody darting in the pond, and it's pretty quiet. It's pretty quiet.
Yeah, yeah, that's really it's a nice job being aware of that. And in some ways, like it sounds like it wasn't necessarily an alarm, but it was communicating
It's
to you that
yeah, it's
things
their
are
song.
changing. Yeah,
Yeah, they're just
it's
it's talking to me by not talking.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Wow, that's awesome. I was thinking the same recently with
Yeah.
the Mississippi kites, who'd been a really strong presence in the skies and like the treetops, you know, all throughout the summer. Don't I can't remember like it's maybe been a week or a week and a half since the last time I heard their vocalizations. And so yeah, sometimes those that like this time of year in the fall is it's really magical in a lot of ways. But sometimes it slips by us, you know, like we don't, I love that you're camping now by your pond because you are able to be very aware. Like when we're camping, it's a really beautiful time. I feel like we tap into sounds and sights and just the earth in a way that we don't normally. And so we become more aware of all those differences and changes. And so yeah, nice job, Anne.
Yeah.
That. Sweet. Della, you want to share? I see you pushing buttons over there.
There, right. Well, I did have a lot of sounds this morning. Part of my celebration was to put the feeders back up. So I put them up about 5 minutes before we started here, and I have had so many birds. It was amazing. So I think their initial sounds were probably saying, the feeders are back. Food, free food for everybody. And so that was good. And then the acorn woodpeckers visited. And when they did, the little nuthatches, the pygmy nuthatches, have this cute little peep, 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 peep. And then when the acorn woodpeckers arrive, it's beep, 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 beep. They just quicken their sound and it sounds very excited. It sounds like Angry Birds, the game, only cheerful instead of angry. And yeah, and so a lot of sounds. I did have an alarm where there was a mourning dove and it, you know, away and everything left. So I don't know whether it was a false alarm or not, but right after that, a crow arrived in the tree and was alarming. So I'm thinking there's a hawk here somewhere.
Mm.
So that's my story.
Wow, there's so many layers to that one, Della. Dang. I love that it didn't take the birds long at all to find your feeder. Usually people have to wait a couple days for the birds to come back, right? Has that ever happened to people where you put the food out, you're like, they're still not coming, you know? Yeah. Della waits like less than 5 minutes and they're just like, sweet, we've been waiting, Della. That's awesome. Yeah, and well done paying attention to the mourning dove, you know, and the flight of the mourning dove and how everyone else listened. It's funny because yeah, you're right. Mourning doves can be so skittish that like just turning in their direction can cause them to fly. Um I often wondered about that, like how much the birds pay attention. That I have never tracked that. Actually, it'd be interesting if you have mourning doves at your place regularly, it'd be interesting to track that. Like when do the birds pay attention to the mourning dove flight and when do they just ignore it? Or do they always pay attention to the mourning dove flight? Do other species, like Cheryl's shaking her head no. Yeah, you guys want to say anything about that?
The mourning doves, if I even open a window, will just get totally skittish and fly away, and the little birds don't care. I mean, I open the window all the time, and they're perfectly happy to stay and eat and putter around
Do
the.
they do the little birds stay after the mourning dove has flown, or do the little birds just stay when you open the window, kind of
Oh,
separate
they
from the
stay
birds?
after the mourning dove has flown.
Okay,
They don't care. They just don't care about the mourning dove. Now, when a hawk is near, everybody skedaddles at the same time. And I mean, everybody does, because it's usually a Cooper's hawk, and the Cooper's hawk will go into any tree and any bush. So
yeah,
they
they're very
they're
dangerous.
really, they get real low, real low, or out of the yard entirely.
Well, that's great because that links back to Della's story where in my curiosity of, you know, was this just the dove being skittish or was this actually the dove being wicked aware and maybe the first to key in to that there was danger in the area, you know? It sounds more like if we're tracking what Cheryl's story was saying that and what Della ended up, you know, keying into with the crow alarm, that there may be a hawk in the area. So nice job tracking all that, Della. Yeah, and all of us for putting the story together. Yeah, that's sweet. All right, anyone else want to share from their experience before we head? Yoga doesn't have to be profound if it's just something that an awakening and awareness for you. Yeah, good. Well, thanks for coming today, everybody, and keep listening throughout the week and just noticing the different qualities of sound. So when we're listening to sound, just notice where, I often tell you all, like notice where you feel it in your body, you know, and that can tell you a lot, you know, especially when we're not paying attention. It's almost better when we're not paying attention because we're not in our thinking mind so much about the sound. Our physical body is responding to it. And but you know, that's what meditation is for. That's why we quiet our mind first so that we can get out of our thinking mind and just be really clear in the present moment. And we become better interpreters when we're of the sounds and sights when we're in that quiet state, you know. All right. Thanks for coming. We'll see you all next week. Have a beautiful, beautiful week, everybody. All
Thank
right.
you.
Yeah, talk to you next time. All right. Hi, Della.
Good morning.
We were just talking about you.
Oh, my ears are burning.
Cheryl was just saying that she finished reading your story from the boost and your celebration story. And I said, I know, isn't it a good one? And she was like, yeah, it really was. So we were just
Thank you.
gushing on you. That's all.
Thank you.
Where did you read the story?
Oh yeah, and so this is with the master's program, the Advanced Skills for Beginning Birders. Both of these ladies, actually all three of them, are master students, and they're part of this course. And we've done a supplemental course alongside of it called the Momentum Boost, which is a chance for everyone to get together once a week, and then we focus on our own individual project, whatever you want to work on related to birds. And we're having our final session tonight for that particular one, and Della wrote a wrap up kind of celebration story from her last 8 weeks to kind of wrap everything up. And so that's what she was speaking about. And yeah, so it's a lovely story that Della told about her journey. So
Thanks.
yeah, yeah.